Hello. Okay. I'm going to adjust this. I'm in my husband's office, and I think that's better. I don't usually do live videos sitting at his desk. Are those lights up on the top of me distracting? I'm not sure. I can't tell. Okay. Okay, I see. Okay, Deb, you're watching. Are those lights on the ceiling, and Danielle, are those too bright? What do you think? Hi, you guys. I just can't tell. I'm not used to being in here when it's dark outside, and I'm worried that those lights are going to be a little bit too bright. What do you think? Let me know if you think they're too bright. And thanks for joining. I'm so excited to talk about homeschooling over the next couple weeks. Homeschooling is just my favorite thing in the whole world. So besides, of course, my husband and the kids who are, hold on, maybe the lights are too bright. I need your guys' help. I should have tested this before. I'm going to turn off the lights on the ceiling and then be right back. But now there's like a spotlight on me. That's weird. Okay. I'm just going to make it work like this. And if it's not the best angle, figure it out next time. So I am so excited to talk about homeschooling over the next couple weeks. I know that there are a lot of people right now who are maybe considering homeschooling, people who have just all of a sudden started homeschooling because of the coronavirus, and you realize, wow, this is maybe harder than I thought, not what I thought. I'm really liking it. I think I could do this long term, but it's extremely daunting. And how do you get started? What do you do to create a homeschool plan? So I know that a lot of you guys have given me questions and comments, and I really appreciate that. And I promise, I'm going to answer every single one. But tonight I wanted to create kind of the vision and give a little bit of my story and some of the blessings that I've experienced homeschooling. So for a lot of you who are watching who already homeschool, this might just be a reminder or an encouragement for you guys to realize, oh yeah, that's why I made this decision. It's something that's really special to me for A, B, and C. And I'm just going to try to encourage you for that. But really my heart, my main audience, when my husband and I were talking about this and I've been praying about it, is all of these women who are unsure of what to do this fall because of COVID. And I know that it's this tricky subject and a lot of people don't like talking about it, but the fact is it's affecting our schools. And what should we do? So tonight, I wanted to start with a verse in Psalms 46 verses 5 through 6, which have just been really speaking to me during this season, specifically for homeschooling, but also just for anything that we can get through this with the Lord. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. At break of day is when so many moms go to the Lord, start their day with, what do I do? How do I approach my day, Father? And God will meet us at break of day. Nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall, he lifts his voice, the earth melts. And everything's in uproar. But you know what? The safety and the small area of our home, we have so much security, and we don't need to be worried or fearful about what's going on in the outside world because we have the Lord in our homes. So why do people want to homeschool? So I'm going to share my story for a few minutes, and anybody who knows me well has probably heard my story, but I thought it would be really good to give you guys some perspective. I know there might be people who end up watching this or who get it shared to them and they don't even know me and they don't know my story. Well, I was public schooled. My husband was public schooled. I never once considered homeschooling. It wasn't on my radar. And I didn't ever think that was going to be something we did. Actually, when my oldest was born, I put her on the waiting list for the really popular classical school in our town. But as it got closer and as the decision was feeling really, real as she's 3, 4, 5, and I'm deciding what to do, I knew I didn't want to do preschool. And as we're getting close to kindergarten, my oldest, Scarlett, you guys know her if you know us in real life. She's currently a 7th grader, so she's old now, and I've homeschooled this entire time. She just wasn't, she needed to go to kindergarten sooner, and she was ready, and she wasn't going to go to school based on the cutoff. So, the super short version of this is we prayed about it, and we decided we're going to keep her home for 1 year for kindergarten and see how this goes. We're going to just see how it is. And guess what? We absolutely loved it. And the Lord, throughout that year, really confirmed for us that this is what we should do with Scarlett. And right away, my husband wasn't as on board as me. And in future weeks, I do want to touch on kind of the husband interaction and how that piece works. But our agreement was we're going to talk about this every single summer. We're going to reevaluate. And every single summer we talked about it, and I just kept loving it. I kept loving it, and homeschooling felt really natural. And keep in mind, I'm not super qualified. I always felt those first couple years pretty inadequate. I actually never finished college. I'm married to someone who is very intelligent and has a high degree, and I'm married into a family. That was really important. So for those of you listening or watching this who are considering homeschooling but you don't feel capable, you can do it. You and I learned those first couple years, we are the perfect moms for our children. We are the perfect teachers for our children, because no one loves our children. No one will fight for our children and care about our children and try to tailor their learning like us. And so even if you don't have high degrees, and even if you're intimidated by middle school and high school math, which I am, the Lord will meet you. And there are so many tools and resources. And that is a big hope I have over the next couple weeks, is for anybody who doesn't feel qualified to realize that is absolutely baloney. I'm telling you right now. So I just kept homeschooling year after year. And, it is really hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but it teaches me the most. It's the biggest blessing, the biggest unexpected blessing of my life. And I'm really trying to protect myself from not crying about it right now while I think about just the great way it's offered, just relational, just everything with our family, the closeness that we've been able to create. And I firmly believe that we would not have been able to create that if my kids were in school for so many hours a day. So every child is different, and creating a vision for your homeschool doesn't have to be daunting either. It's as simple as thinking about a goal that you have for your child for that school year. Why, when you have these small thoughts in your mind about homeschooling, what is it that's prompting? Is it because maybe your child has a delay in learning? Maybe your child's advanced. And it's these things, these ways that you learn about each child helps you to create your goals and your vision for your homeschool. So I always think about each child individually each year, and I pray about what is my goal for that child this year, and what do I want to create? And you know what? It's not always academic. The beauty of homeschooling is that you're able to really work on their character and develop them emotionally. And it's not just about intelligence. It's not just about getting them to become the smartest. It's often something that you're working with their character. So I wanted to list out over the years, some of the unexpected blessings. For some of you who are on the fence about homeschooling, or maybe you've done it for a year or two, but you're still not quite sure if it's the right fit for your family long term, and why are you homeschooling? I wanted to remind you of some of the things that are amazing about homeschooling, and things that maybe some of you might have never considered. Some of you have only been homeschooling for a few weeks because you were forced into it. These are some of the things that you can experience long term. By far and away, just the time that you have with your kids. And that can be hard. That actually could be a curse for some of you. And you know what? It's hard sometimes for me. Sometimes I do wish that my kids could just go to school for a day and I could have an alone day and go grocery shopping in peace. But long term, I think that as moms and fathers, the time we have our children at home is short, and it goes by really quickly. And homeschooling allows us to have uninterrupted time that's not rushed, time where we can have conversations, without just the drama of school, especially now experiencing girls who are becoming older and in middle school, and just the impact their friends have on them and the impact that puberty has on them. I think that the time with our kids is so valuable, and your husband will get more time. the siblings and the time they have with each other. That's probably been my favorite, far and away benefit of the Jones family homeschool, is that my girls are really close. And it's something that I always prayed for and wanted. And I feel like that can be completely fostered just in a better and an easier way with homeschooling. If they're at school all day long, your children are going to be friends with the kids that are in their grade, in their age. And of course, I'm not saying that public school kids cannot be friends and close with their siblings. Again, I have never had the experience of public school, so I'm not coming from public school going into homeschool. I've only homeschooled from the beginning, but I have seen such a benefit in the closeness and also the way that my kids have been able to learn together and some of the memories that they've been able to create with just learning together, struggling together, working through disagreements daily, allowing them to figure these things out because they have the time. As a family, we're not as rushed. We don't have that hurried morning and then also the hurried evening. I've talked to many friends of mine who are in public school, and they do say that the homeschooling life, that part of it, they're envious of. Just that we can let our kids sleep in and we can start the day with what works for our family. Maybe you like to stay up later and sleep in. Maybe you like to get up early, but you can just have a leisurely breakfast. And I think that the evenings, especially with the combination of activities and homework, when you homeschool, it actually only takes just a couple hours. And so some of you might not realize that, but there's so much wasted time at public school. And as a homeschool family, if you have I have 3 students. Oh, and I never told you guys, I have a 7th grader, a 5th grader, and a 3rd grader. And then I also have a 3-year-old that I'm trying to kind of get into the mix and homeschool. So I will definitely have information moving forward in future weeks of homeschooling with a toddler and a preschooler and a baby, because I've done all of that. But what was I saying? Oh, just the way it's not hurried. And when we focus, we can get almost all of our school done in 2 to 3 hours. And then you have the whole day, which is another unexpected blessing. Your kids have a lot of extra time to pursue hobbies, to pursue things that they really like to do. And you can pursue subjects that might be kind of considered fluff subjects or things that don't seem as important. If you're a musical family, you can focus on music longer. And if you have a child who's really interested in airplanes, you can plan a whole couple of weeks study on airplanes, and you can just follow the desires of your child. And in homeschooling world, that's called interest-led learning. And it's really neat and fun and creative, which traditional public school wouldn't allow because they have a schedule. But in homeschool, we set our pace. We set our schedule. And if we want to kind of rush through something because our kids are a little bored or we don't want to read a certain book, it's okay. We have that opportunity and the flexibility to do that. Or we could camp out in an area if our kids are really enjoying it. Another thing, so the more time for hobbies, which is great. In the afternoons, they have time to practice their sports or musical instruments or just play and actually just be kids. And that's another thing that I feel is really important as a homeschooling mom, is allowing my children to just have playtime. And homeschooling is really good for that. Really good for creative play, really good for open-ended time. The opportunity to go on field trips during the week when other people are at school. We have the museums all to ourselves. Another draw of homeschooling, which might be intriguing for some of you, is just the flexibility with travel. If anybody knows me, they know that we go to Arizona a lot because that's where our family lives. We love to just pick up and go. I love to not have the strict schedule and the freedom to just leave when I want. It's really powerful, I think. And if we want to do a little school over the summer or over Christmas break and then take off a random week in February, we can, because we're in charge of that. And that might be really appealing to some of you, especially if you're a military family, because it's just your own set schedule. There's no attendance. You're, of course, the main influence in your child's life. And that is important in so many ways. As a Christian, your main influence is that you want the Lord to be the center of your school. And sadly, in a lot of our public schools, that's just not the truth. And we create the content, we create the curriculum. We can explain these difficult or controversial subjects ourselves. Also being the main influence, that's important, I think, with socialization. And I know that's a little bit of a subject where some people are nervous to maybe homeschool because they feel like their children won't be as socialized. Well, I think being the main influence in my child's life for that is if I make an effort to explain to my child the importance of friendships, the importance of speaking up and stating your opinion and introducing yourself and teaching them these life skills, I don't think that they're going to suffer by not going to school. As long as you, as the parent, and your husband make it a point to train them and teach them how to be personable. And I can tell you from, experience, all these years homeschooling, my kids are normal, I think. Maybe they're a little weird, but, they all know how to speak up and introduce themselves. So I don't personally think that is an issue anymore. And homeschooling has come a long ways. Something else that's really cool about homeschooling just recently, kind of modern homeschooling, are all of the resources and all of the co-ops and hybrid schools that are offered, which, weren't as available 10 to 20 years ago, which I think really helps curtail the socialization worry. So my kids, for example, ever since they've been in kindergarten, they've done a 1-day-a-week program, and it's enrichment. They can do fun things that are a little bit harder for me to cover at home, such as music and art and some neat science experiments and things like that are harder for me. They're able to do that. And then they're able to learn from someone else. And it's absolutely fantastic. So these are options that are available now to homeschoolers, and they're really neat. Thank you, Danielle. You're so sweet. So let me look at my notes really quick. I took some notes, and I want to make sure all of my points I hit. So you're in charge of the content, less hurried. It creates a slower pace of life with homeschooling, more time with our kids, the sibling dynamic, you're the main influence. Something that's really cool. What is your family's passion? As a homeschooling family, you can really create kind of a passion or a vision for your family, and you have time to foster that. You can create a family, maybe it's based on what your husband does for a living. You guys all want to learn about it more. Or maybe your family's really mission oriented and you want to learn about the third world and opportunities for that. I think that for our family, I've always done ministry, and I worked for Young Life for quite a few years. And now I'm involved in another ministry, Help Club for Moms, which most of you guys know. And I've been able to bring my kids into a lot of ministry situations that I think they wouldn't have been able to do if they were in school all day. And it creates so many fantastic conversations. So I just think that as a family, you can have this vision or passion for your family, and that can really be fostered while you're homeschooling. The hours at home, just the focus of everything takes less time. You can have the afternoon to play and do things. All the wasted time in public school. There's so many times in public school where, there's 2 teachers and there's 30 kids, and they waste so much time lining up and going to lunch. And it's unfortunately, they also have to kind of teach to what the lowest student. And I think that in our situation, it was Scarlett starting, and she started reading really young, and I just wanted to get her going. And I think that's another benefit of homeschooling. Whether you have learning disabilities or you have special needs or you have, a talented child, there's so many opportunities to just tailor the learning to your child. And that's something that's really special that, some public schools offer, but it's hard. And it's nice to just create that in a homeschool. I think it's really neat to have the dad involved. And if your husband is involved or, has a special kind of area of expertise or a subject that they really like, they can have the opportunity to interact with the child more, which might not happen because with public school, I think the kids are at school all day, and then it's usually the mom who might help out with homework more. And I've seen a great benefit to my husband being more involved and the relationship he has developed with the kids. Not all is just due to homeschooling, but it's definitely helped. Utilizing the resources, the hybrids, the co-ops, which I mentioned, and in future weeks I can talk about specific ones of those, but those are all really great, powerful tools that are available, not to mention all the online resources. My husband, okay, so we were talking about this together, and my husband was giving me some ideas of things that he's noticed, and he literally said, diet. I didn't think that that was a big deal, but he's really into eating healthy, and he thinks that it's really great at home. I can make the kids breakfast and lunch that's healthier and it's not rushed, and we can just talk over lunch. And he wanted me to say that. So diet, and the kids get more sleep a lot of times. My years doing, Young Life, I talked to a lot of the high school students, and they were always telling me about how underslept they were, how much pressure there was on staying up at night to get their homework done, but then school starts really early. So I think that a benefit of homeschooling is that your kids can sleep on the schedule that might naturally be the best for their body. You don't have to wake them up in the morning to get them to school. You can just let them sleep till the time that's the best, natural for them, which is really great and beneficial. I think those were the main points I had. But overall, I think that homeschooling is not as scary as most people assume. I think that big fear of I'm not qualified, I really can tell you from firsthand experience that you don't have to be a genius to homeschool. Something that's really been beautiful is, for me, has been learning alongside my children. And I think that some of you have probably experienced that. It's just so fun to relearn things and learn alongside my kids as we're reading together. And I definitely have my strengths in homeschooling. And then for my weak subjects, I'm able to outsource or use my husband or find things to do. And you do not need to feel like I have to be an expert in every area to homeschool my children. I did not finish college, and I'm doing it. And I think that I'm doing a pretty good job, and my kids are all figuring it out. And, something we did have to reach out last year for Scarlett, my oldest, and we got a math tutor because she started doing math that I didn't really feel confident in. And that's fine. The thing about everybody's homeschool is they're so unique. They're so different. Everybody has a different amount of children and different, needs that each child has. And the overall thing about homeschooling that's so beautiful is the flexibility. And you don't have to fit your child into a mold of public school, and that you're in charge of the content and you're in charge of the curriculum. So I wanted to start tonight with just this big picture and hopefully encourage some of you guys and get you maybe a little bit of motivation just to remind you of why you're homeschooling, or for some of you who haven't started homeschooling, maybe if you're thinking about it. I know that so many people consider homeschooling. Maybe it's just a thought in the back of your head. Maybe you've never even verbalized it. But with the next couple weeks, I'm really hoping and praying that the Lord will give you direction. And through the last couple weeks that you've been at home with your kids, I'm sure your mind is swirling and you might be confused about what you're going to do this fall. And if you have even an inkling and a thought, I encourage you to really pray about it. Really, really pray about it. Verbalize it to your husband. Talk to a couple friends. Keep listening to my videos. Let me know if you have any questions. And I want to talk over the next couple weeks about all the specifics. But I want you to know that when I started my homeschooling journey, I was confused. I was nervous. I didn't know what I was doing. I was public schooled and I just jumped in. And I think with homeschooling, that's one of the things in life that you kind of just have to jump in, and you have to just jump in and trust and just be an open book and allow the Lord to teach you and, exhaust every single resource. So I'm going to look through all of the comments and all of the questions that people have given me when I posted about this. And I'm going to start planning out my weeks, but I'm thinking next week, I want to big picture, vision, some of the blessings, that's what we talked about tonight. Well, next week, the next step would be, what does homeschooling even look like? I know that it's been different the last couple of weeks because so many of you guys have gotten schoolwork from your teachers. So how would it actually look like to create your own homeschool? What do you do? What is a schedule, and how do you plan that out? So that's what I'm going to discuss next week. I think the next week we'll talk about specific curriculums, but specifically next week, how does homeschool work? What do I actually do? And it's doable, it's feasible, you are capable, and you are the absolute perfect teacher for your child. So tonight was a little bit shorter. I think in future weeks I'll go longer, but I wanted to create a big vision and a big beautiful picture. Hopefully you see the beauty of this, and I want to end in prayer for all of you, okay? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the opportunity to have the decision to teach our children any way we want, whether it's putting them in school or homeschooling them at home. Father, thank you. For everybody watching, I pray that you give everybody encouragement and confidence and just boldness as they're deciding what to do this fall, or if they're going to continue homeschooling over the summer. Father, I pray for them to be granted wisdom, Lord, and I pray that you meet them where they're at. And I pray that their relationship with their children is strengthened. And I pray specifically for anybody whose maybe husband is not quite on board, and I pray for husbands and wives to be on the same page, Lord, to create just a unified relationship and a beautiful heart of homeschooling in their home. And I pray that homeschooling can be a blessing to everybody, that you will prompt them and guide them to create a vision, Lord. And I thank you so much for everybody watching, Father, and we love you. Amen. Okay, so yes, Danielle, yes, this will be once a week. I really want to do this every single Thursday. And tonight, I didn't address any of the specifics, so sorry if you're disappointed, but my plan is to do this for 6 weeks and every single week talk about some of the mechanics. So if you have any specific questions about curriculum, I'm definitely going to discuss how to homeschool multiple grades at one time, how to homeschool with a baby and a toddler, teaching your children to read, book recommendations, how to create a schedule in the sense of like homeschooling and homemaking. How do you cook dinner? How do you clean? How do you maintain a relationship with your husband? It's possible to do it all, but you have to really be planned and prepared. So these are the things I'm going to talk about, and thank you guys for watching, and I love you. Bye.